share it with everybody later on, and others who weren't able to attend will be able to also watch it. Um, all right, so welcome, and thank you for joining us for tonight's webinar, Ulster Toward Zero Waste. This evening, we'll walk through where things stand today on the zero waste front in Ulster County, what's at stake for our communities, and what a plan towards zero waste could look like here in Ulster. Um, there's going to be a series of links to share, which I'll do at the end during the um, Q&A session. I can't run my screen and share links in real time, but you'll get everything at the end. My name's Rebecca Martin. I'm a part of KingstonCitizens.org. My colleague Tanya Garment is here tonight with me, who does so much great volunteer work in the community. Hi, Tanya. Um, KingstonCitizens.org was established in 2006. We're nonpartisan, we're grassroots, we're all volunteers, and our focus is on promoting transparency in local government through community engagement and civics and community participation. And as I said, and I'll just say it again, we are recording tonight's presentation. Um, there is a chat, of course, and I ask you to refrain from using chat until the end and just be present with us here and listen and write your questions down as they occur to you. There's going to be plenty of time to ask questions at the end. So good. So stay out of the chat. Um, yes, and that's the housekeeping for this evening. Okay, so I'm super happy and honored to introduce Judith Enck, um, who was able to join us this evening in order to help to set the stage for our presentations tonight in our community conversation. Judith is a nationally recognized environmental policy expert, the president of Beyond Plastics, where I'm also a colleague. Get to work with Judith there, and a former regional administrator for the United States Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, appointed by Barack Obama. Judith has spent her career advancing environmental protections with a strong focus on reducing plastic pollution, addressing climate change, and protecting public health and the environment. Judith also serves as a professor at Bennington College. So, Judith, thank you so much for being here tonight, and take it away.
Thanks, Rebecca. It's such an honor to work every day with Rebecca at Beyond Plastics, and she's one of the best organizers around, as you know. So thanks to Rebecca and Tanya for their great work at Kingston Citizens. Um, you all know what I'm about to say, but let me run through this quickly. Seeing the lineup of who's on this webinar, it's like having Bruce Springsteen walk into your music store and ask for music lessons. You all are the Bruce Springsteens or Natalie Merchants of the solid waste movement in Ulster County and the Hudson Valley. But let me lay a few things out to get us started. I think many of us are drawn to the issue of solid waste disposal, not because we're fixated on the problems with landfills and incinerators, although that's part of it, and not because we know there are better alternatives, although that's part of it, but the way solid waste is managed in the United States is illustrative of how we've become a throwaway society and how unsustainable that is and how that contributes to the climate crisis and health problems. What I mean is the US has 4% of the world's population, and we use 16% of the world's energy. We know the war in Iran and every other war in history, in recent history, has been about oil. So we're using 16% of the world's energy, we're creating 12% of the world's waste, and 17% of the world's plastic waste. I spend every day working to reduce plastics, and the US generates over 92 billion pounds of plastic waste every year. That means the average resident of the United States is generating 286 pounds of plastic per person. And remember, plastic is really light. And there's very little we can do as individuals, no matter how careful you are. We need systemic change. So, my premise is we have to move away from the throwaway society. And lucky for us, we can tackle this at the local level, but certainly need state and federal policies to help tackle this. Under no condition should Ulster County build a garbage incinerator. And it's great to know that you have a law in Ulster County prohibiting that. However, I would recommend that that law be amended so Ulster County never exports waste to be burned at incinerators in other communities. You know, Poughkeepsie is not far from Ulster County. Peekskill is not far. Washington County is not far. Newark, New Jersey, which is the home of the Covanta, I too don't call it Reworld incinerator, is not far. So it would be super helpful to take that off the table by amending your existing law. A huge amount of money and diesel gas is currently used to export Ulster's waste to the Finger Lakes. And our friends with Seneca Lake Guardian and other community groups there would like you to stop doing that. So I think the best long-term economic strategy for both taxpayers and businesses in Ulster County is first to focus on waste reduction, reuse, refill, recycling. I am a big supporter of recycling. We need to keep recycling our paper, metal, glass, cardboard, but recognize that plastic recycling has been an abysmal failure, clocking it at only 5 to 6% recycling rate. And in our new book, The Problem with Plastic, we explain in detail why plastics recycling is a dead end. And then, of course, composting, but just yard waste and food waste. I am very old school when it comes to composting. I know if you source separate and have clean organic material going in, i.e., not packaging, you will get a rich, wonderful soil amendment coming out on the other end that will improve soil health, that will replace topsoil, that will be a carbon sink, which we desperately need. So after you maximize reduction, reuse, refill, recycling, clean composting, there will be some waste left that needs to be landfilled. And I think it makes sense for Ulster County to try to site a landfill within the county. Look at brownfield sites, look at industrial areas. Don't site it on the Hudson River. Don't site it near wetlands and important habitat. And involve the public from the beginning. I know that this is suboptimal, but there is no free lunch. And we have to recognize that there are just some items that are not going to be reused, recycled, or composted. And we can't expect our friends in the Finger Lakes to keep accepting waste. And I think when we're honest with the public, we will get more public support. I do want to make a pitch for all of you to help us to pass the Packaging Reduction, Recycling, and Infrastructure Act in Albany. That is facing headwinds, ferocious opposition from the plastics, petrochemical, and consumer brand companies. It will require a 30% reduction in all single-use packaging. It'll get the worst toxic chemicals out of packaging, including the whole PFAS family. It prohibits chemical recycling from counting as real recycling. It puts a fee on packaging with that money being used to promote waste reduction, reuse, refill, and yes, some recycling. And I think it's the most sweeping waste reduction bill in the country. It's Assembly Bill 1749. Senate Bill 1464. It's passed the New York State Senate 2 years in a row, but it is stuck in the Assembly. It's actually on the Assembly floor now. It passed through all four committees, but we have to convince Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie to allow the bill to come up for a vote. I'm very confident that if it comes up, it'll pass. So I invite you to join us in Albany on Monday, May 11th for a day-long advocacy day in support of the bill. It will be fun. So here's the final thing I want to say. There's a lot going on in the world. Getting up every morning and reading the newspaper is often a gut punch. But the solid waste crisis is not getting any better. The plastic pollution problem gets worse. So we have to keep our eyes on these big issues, like ICE's abuse of migrants and people of color. We have to keep our eye on the war in Iran. We have to keep our eye on climate change, but also tackling these local issues not only will improve our environment and our health, but it builds community, it gives us hope. And either after this webinar tonight or in the morning, I want you to take a close look at what's happened in the world just in the past few hours. The horrible head of Hungary, Viktor Orban, was defeated. I think he was president of Hungary for 16 years. There is dancing in the streets in Budapest, and I urge you to just look online on what's unfolding. So that's our international good news. And then just about 2 hours ago, New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani gave an address to hundreds of supporters in Queens, laying out his first 100 days, bringing universal childcare to the city, bringing affordable supermarkets. The first city-run supermarket in his administration to open shortly. And these two things, I think, are intimately linked to what we're trying to do on environmental protection. You have to have the facts, you have to have community, and you have to be really persistent to change the world. It's happening even in this political climate that we're in, and it can also happen in Ulster County as you drive policy towards zero waste. So thanks for having me tonight. I hope you have a really productive and great meeting. I'm sorry you had to look at my bio for the last 15 minutes. Um, Two things. You should get my book, The Problem with Plastic. I'll be speaking in Saugerties. Thanks. Thanks so much, Rebecca, reading my mind. Saturday, April 25th, I'll be in conversation with Jen Metzger talking about solid waste and the problem with plastic. And then also, I want to strongly recommend that you watch the new Netflix movie called The Plastic Detox. It just came out about 3 weeks ago, and it deals with some of the more serious health impacts of plastic exposure. And we are organizing a viewing at the New York State Museum in Albany next Sunday, April 19th, from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. We'll be showing the movie, and we'll have a panel featuring Dr. Kathy Nolan, a medical doctor, and myself. But if you don't want to schlep to Albany, if you have Netflix or you have a kid with Netflix, I highly recommend The Plastic Detox. I was an advisor on the film. It was years in the making, and I think it's going to really change the conversation on plastics and health.
Thank you, Judith. Really appreciate you being here.
My pleasure. Good night, everyone.
Night, Judith.
Have a great meeting.
Thank you. All right, so I'm just going to walk through a couple of slides quickly to get right away to Josephine and to Shabazz. I'll just say that, our goal here is to, and has been for many months, is to work to support the county, to to properly scope and fund a zero waste implementation plan that will help us to get to the end to see what steps are necessary when we've successfully done what is going to be discussed here tonight. So where we end up, we need to reserve our feelings or and opinions about that and focus now on the steps that are in front of us. So with that, I just want to give a little bit of information about why we're here with Kingston Citizens tonight, just so it isn't abstract, and to start a little bit with where we are now in Ulster County. So maybe most of you know, maybe some of you don't know, but currently in Ulster County, we send 140,000 tons of municipal and construction and demolition waste each year to Seneca Meadows, and that's located in Seneca Falls, New York. Um, the current information that we have is that that's 12 truck trips per day, 6 days a week, traveling over 250 miles one way, so more than 500 miles round trip. Now, does that make any sense to any of us, to any of you? No, it doesn't. Beyond being expensive and unsustainable, the environmental burden that occurs by sending our waste to Western New York right now is falling on a single community of fewer than 9,000 people. And so that burden shows up in as massive waste volumes, constant truck traffic, air pollution, persistent odors, toxic chemicals, air pollution, you name it. It's the gamut for this small community that's out of sight and out of mind to counties and communities like ours here in Ulster County. I'm in the city of Kingston. So this image here actually shows, this is from a New York Times article. It shows the scale of Seneca Meadows landfill in Seneca Falls. And it also features Seneca Lake Guardians, who Judith mentioned earlier, Joseph Campbell and Yvonne Taylor, who continue to work toward the closure of this landfill that was meant to be closed at the end of 2025. Joseph and Yvonne are frontline community organizers, and they are also partners with us here and also in an organization called New York River Watch, where the organization has helped to develop statewide data that tracks um, that's tracking where leachate, which is garbage water, garbage laden water that's transported and ultimately discharged into rivers and lakes across New York State, many of which are drinking water supplies. Um, and I'm going to show you a slide about that in a second. But, you know, Yvonne and Joseph are both driven by what they witness every day and the real and lasting impacts on the people and the environment of Seneca Falls. So their advocacy is grounded in that lived experience. So I'm going to share this slide because this is brand new data. This report's coming out next month. This toxic garbage soup of harmful chemicals is a direct result of both active and inactive landfills. So it has to go somewhere. And this is a sample of the work from New York River Watch and its leachate loophole campaign, which exposed the regulatory gaps that allow leachate to be discharged into rivers and streams and lakes. And you can see the lion's share. These are the top 10 water bodies that are, and their volumes of leachate that are going into these water bodies. And the practice of leachate leaving landfills and being delivered to municipal sewage treatment plants that are not equipped to filter leachate ends up a lot of the chemicals or end up in these waters. So this new statewide report is coming out next month. And if you want to learn more about the leachate loophole, this is just another arm of the octopus. You can go to newyorkriverwatch.org and sign up for the mailing list. All right, so last year, Kingston citizens followed the proposed landfill discussion that was being proposed in the town of Wawarsing, which was ultimately rejected. after strong community opposition. And what followed was regional discussions around Covanta Reworld facility between Ulster and Sullivan counties. Um, and in 2025, Ulster County legislators actually went to Long Island to tour Covanta. Um, that processes thousands of tons of waste every day. Um, so while incineration is prohibited in Ulster County under the 2025 UCRRA agreement between the UCRRA and the county, attention seemed to shift to neighboring counties where new facilities might still be considered. So this really would have just been another example of exporting our waste to other communities rather than addressing it locally, similar to what we're doing with Seneca Meadows in Seneca Falls. And more broadly, incineration is widely viewed by environmental advocates as a high-risk waste strategy due to emissions and toxic ash and long-term infrastructure lock-in. And I say that because Brookhaven, New York, which is where there's a landfill there that's accepting ash from Covanta and other incinerators on Long Island, um, I wanted to highlight this frontline community group, Blarg, and our partner Monique Fitzgerald, who's working hard within her community to close that landfill that is accepting ash from Covanta Reworld as one of the incinerators there. It's good to connect the dots and to hold, the work of the communities that are impacted close to us. Um, these are really the folks I wish that our elected officials would have sought out during their facility tours, and we should all get used to that, connecting the dots, that what we do here can have impacts everywhere. Um, and they're the ones that are living the long-term consequences of these systems that we're all discussing. All right, so then in December of 2025, so following the incinerator discussion, which we're going to hear a little bit more because we have more community organizers who want to can speak to that a little bit more later on. We asked the county for a timeline. What are you doing? How are you getting us to zero waste, and how can we help you? How can we support you? And this came in between the incinerator conversation and then this article that landed in the papers. Now, UCRRA had been talking probably about this proposal for many months, but many of us only learned about it through the Daily Freeman, and it was suddenly this 100 million plus 5 acre facility, um, anaerobic digestion that would process more than 107,000 tons of municipal solid waste per year, projected for 2025, as I understand it. And we learned that it would make the project the largest municipal solid waste anaerobic digestion project of its kind in the United States. Um, and while the company claims landfill disposal could be reduced by up to 70%, the facility carries significant environmental um, and operational risks, such as this putter pay that could lock Ulster County into at least 20 years of waste obligations. So that 107,000 tons of trash that could potentially require imports from surrounding counties, such as Dutchess and Sullivan or Orange County, in order to meet those contractual targets. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. So what ensued was a local coalition of partners that came together and have been working together since December um, in order to protect Ulster County's zero waste goals. The group wrote a formal letter urging the county to complete and publicly release a zero waste implementation plan, which is the roadmap to zero waste. A ZWIP is the acronym. Um, and to do that work before pursuing any additional expensive major waste infrastructure projects such as global NRG. Um, and I'll just bring you back a little bit to just briefly what the county has done so far, and it has done a lot of great work on zero waste. So in 2019, Ulster County adopted a zero waste policy, establishing a formal commitment to reducing waste. County Executive Jen Metzger has since reaffirmed zero waste as a county priority through executive direction. However, the zero waste implementation plan remains incomplete. And there isn't any replacing it with a solid waste management plan, which we do have. Um, a solid waste management plan manages waste, and a ZWIP uh, uh, helps us to reduce waste. So they're different. The ZWIP is necessary in order to provide the roadmap, as I mentioned, for local solutions to waste reduction, reuse, recycling, and composting. So they're not the same. Um, and ultimately, the goal should be a sustainable system that benefits Ulster County rather than one that feeds an expensive, high-risk facility with our municipal solid waste. Um, so to us, this is really all about taking responsibility for our own waste locally, and then for reframing it as a resource rather than something to bury or to burn, right? And we can do much more of this on our own, in fact. There are local solutions that you're going to hear about tonight, like community composting and organics diversion, repair and reuse programs that already exist, and organizations like Greenway Environmental Services, who we have here tonight and who I've met in this work over the last 4 months. They're incredible partners, and I'm so glad to be connected with them. And they're doing this work in Ulster County now, and they've been doing it for years, partnering with municipalities in order to build out practical local systems. And this new Paltz model that they're going to talk about tonight shows us how a community can take responsibility for its waste, build local infrastructure in order to do more of that and move step by step towards a real zero waste future. And that Ulster County, over many years, has done a lot to invest in that very thing. So with that, I'm pleased to introduce Shabazz Jackson and Josephine Papa Josephine.
Papagni.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to get that right.
Yeah.
Of Greenway Environmental Services, who are working on the ground here in Ulster County. They are certified compost facility operators and professional soil blenders. Exactly what we need. We couldn't be a better time for that skill. And they design zero waste systems and stormwater management. So they accept food waste, they leaves and stumps and logs, pallets, and unpainted dimensional lumber at their facility. The material is processed into topsoil, compost, and mulch. And with that, I'm going to let you take it away, and I will be happy to move your slides when you give me the go.
Okay. Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you to the team that we have been working with since this first, we became aware of it in the newspaper. You can move the slide. The question, most people say because zero is impossible. I think everyone thinks that, and myself included. And it is a recognized goal of 90% reduction in landfill and incineration. And the focus is preventing waste before it is created. And by doing that, you develop systems that conserve our resources and protect our communities. And that has to do with a whole culture of how we treat these materials, intentional buying, um, uh, kind of respecting the materials as being a resource rather than waste. You can go next slide. So the hierarchy is, and Rebecca pretty well covered this, reduce, reuse and repair, recycle, and compost. And in doing that, the organics portion gets even a little more complicated because you want to capture food that is still usable to eat. You want to be able to pass that along to people who are food insecure. The last I've heard in Ulster County, 1 out of 4 people are food insecure. Um, the reuse and repair, those repair cafes that are all over Ulster County are wonderful. I know people who have gone there with slide projectors and vacuum cleaners and just wall clocks. I mean, things that they would have formerly thrown out. Next slide. The zero waste model is really a first step of the implementation. And part of that began with when Ulster County designated the Recycling Oversight Committee, that happened to be chaired by Laura Petit. There was also legislative support of Zero Waste Resolution 451 and the development of that new Paltz transfer station. And we're going to get deeper into that because that is a real demonstration of what could be done at all of the transfer stations that we have throughout Ulster County. You want to, okay, Ken?
So in 94, Ulster, the RRA actually became a feeder facility to Seneca Meadows landfill. And we're now sending 140,000 tons of material to that landfill. In 2012, we passed, and this is going to be a significant event, much more significant now than it was in 2012. But we passed flow control. And based on flow control, it took away our options for disposing of our business and personal MSW, which is municipal solid waste. So it made it so that all of our carting companies, doesn't matter who you use, that are licensed in Ulster County have to bring their waste to the Resource Recovery Agency. So it gives them total control over that waste stream, over our waste stream. And next slide. We look at waste. What we pay for waste now is a tax, and it is a regressive tax. So we all produce waste. We all have to pay whatever the agency requires, and we all have to send it to the agency. So in Resolution 451 is a key support for zero waste. And then in 2020, Resolution 242, it commits the agency to review zero waste strategy and collaborate, which is what this collaboration is what we're forming now in a comprehensive zero waste plan. So that resolution was passed unanimously.
Right.
Every single legislator voted for 242. One person Uh, it was a guy who volunteered and changed his tune at the Garlic Festival, but he was the only one who voted against 451. So I'm not going to mention his name, but I want to. But I won't tell you who he is. Now, in '86, the people of Ulster made a key decision. And what we decided to do was to invest $200 million to, uh, as a group, as a community, as a county, to close all our landfills and build all the transfer stations. We're the only county that did that and chose to do that. And that's what gives us our 19 transfer stations. And that's what gives us the infrastructure to actually achieve the 90% recovery for zero waste. Next slide. Next slide.
No.
Okay. So, so,
Yeah.
so, so the village, uh,
Is this
New
correct?
Paltz.
We can find, is this correct,
Yeah,
Shabazz?
yeah, that's good.
Okay.
New Paltz is our model. We moved from Dutchess County to New Paltz to become part of this model. This model was well underway, and we actually, if you could imagine what it is to move a fully functional composting system from one place to another. You can't do it without a tremendous amount of infrastructure, and that infrastructure was here under the care and leadership of Laura Petit. So basically, what we had to do is we had to send everything that we were receiving. We split it between New Paltz and the agency was just opening up. This is 2014. And then, so we had to keep our customers. Then we moved over here, built and permitted our facility, and then we took about 600 to 800 tons back to our facility to start it up. So now we are part of the New Paltz model. So the village has a leaf dump next to the community garden down by the creek. The town has a composting transfer station. Greenway has its commercial composter. The New Paltz Reformed Church has the community composter, community garden, which we're going to see. The library under community compost. And when community compost was starting up, we did for community compost the same thing that New Paltz did for us. So it enabled them to get started. And then the town of New Paltz Recreation has food waste collection. Next slide. So this gives you a real idea of the two types of infrastructure that's available. So our facility, that's a 10-ton load of food waste, and we take in about five of those a week right now. And then on the left side, that is New Paltz, and New Paltz has a mechanical system, and we're looking kind of at the backside of it, but you can see the blowers and you can see the piping. So they do mechanically what we do biologically. And if you were to think of now, as you think of zero waste, we have an opportunity here, if we had the implementation system, to really analyze these two systems and place a per ton cost on what it costs to process a ton of waste. Next slide. Um, on the left, that is a collection that is done by Community Compost, and that is at the library. On the right is a system that is at the recreation center, and the can there is a new addition, and that material goes to the town's composter and is picked up by the town.
Next.
So our system at the Reformed Church, and on the 25th, we are having a Earth Day festival at the Reformed Church, and we're going to be doing several workshops here. So anyone who's interested in actually seeing this can come to this workshop. On the left side is a New Paltz class that is at the community garden, and the community garden here provides food for the members who work it, and then the excess food goes to fresh food giveaways. And it's a no-till, weed-free garden. Next slide. So what zero waste does is, and what makes New Paltz a real model. The implementation plan calls for the creation of a model. And what makes that important is that once we have a good working model, it can be easily replicated. So right now, if you were to go, there's no place you can find this information except here tonight. And it's rarely that Josephine and I, who are in the trenches, get a chance to talk about what we see. And next slide. So the New Paltz transfer station is a tremendous resource for gathering up this information. How much is it going to cost? How many people does it take? What kind of equipment do we need? What is the projected volumes? All of these questions have to be answered, and our model is how we're going to get the answers. And because the transfer stations were all created at the same time, they all have similar spaces and similar possibilities. They're operated differently. So New Paltz has 3 employees, a leader and a person who gets a pure separation, which is a key part of the process of creating materials that go into the reuse waste stream. So next slide. This is a shed. On the right side is an air conditioner. The food in this shed comes to New Paltz from the cooperative extension, and it is gleaned from many different places. And it comes there, it gets stored there, and then the fresh food giveaways come to New Paltz, and they take this material. They take this food and give it away. So in, preparing for this presentation, that was one of the biggest surprises to me because I have not seen this anyplace else. Next slide. The reuse center, I was around when the reuse center was built. It was built. Uh, it was partially funded with a grant, and then it shows the investment that the town of New Paltz has made, and it well, you can just see how much material is available that would normally in other transfer stations go in the dumpsters. And schools and different community organizations all utilize the materials that come through through the reuse center. You can see they take waste oil. They have
That's the next slide.
they have um, a place for good construction and demolition materials, and so that the contractors know that they can save themselves some money and they can actually get materials from here. And you can see it's a fairly good sized space that has dimensional lumber. It has windows and doors, just a variety of things all the time.
I wanted to, before you go on, I wanted to cut in that we didn't even get all of the stuff that they have, I guess, salvaged. They have a shed that they salvage bicycles. And it's not, we didn't grab a picture of it, unfortunately, but the beauty of that is they get them right back out into the community because people, with young kids, it's a great reuse to have, and they fix them up even. They'll clean them up and get them back out. You can go to the next slide, Rebecca. And the standard recyclables, they handle that completely. They are really vigilant about making sure there's no cross contamination. I looked at their plastic recovery, and I know from listening to Judith that like less than 5% actually gets recycled. But I tell you, everything they have, they are really careful about. They're a great model for the right way to do it. Next slide. This it gives you a sampling of a lot of the different equipment that they have, like the one on the bottom in the middle, a flip screen. They do that to screen their compost and their soil blending. The rest of it is, well, the truck on the right, I don't really know what this thing on the far left is, so I'm not going to fake it.
That is a kind of a fancy Bobcat loader.
Oh,
And
that's right.
that is the workhorse of the facility. And then you could see the backhoe is a key piece of equipment, and it's become like a backup. And you can see that Bobcat is fairly new.
Yeah.
The key thing is now we have what equipment do you use? The New Paltz facility takes in about 2,500 tons of material per year. They recover about more than 50% of that. What makes that important is that right now our recovery rate in Ulster County is about 22 to 24%. In order to change from a disposal-based system, which is what we are, to a recovery-based system, we have to recover over 50%. So now if you were to look at who's getting that done, this is where it's done. The recovery rate is over 50%. This is the equipment that they use. Now what we have is we have a workable model. Next slide. Go ahead.
Okay. Is zero waste achievable? We definitely know it is. A few people are aware that we have been working with the town of Hurley, for instance. We've done some very in-depth pilot projects with homeowners, and quickly people who separate their food waste from their normal household waste went from a 24% recovery up to above 80%. And it's a very significant sampling of households. They had their clipboards, we gave them scales, and I think we ended up doing about 22 households. And that was on what got us to the DEC grant that we're maybe this week we'll actually have our contract. So I want to throw out that Hurley project because that's another model that's going to be very valuable for people out there who want to get their communities to zero waste. So we feel that Ulster County should be guided by what we know works. And we know that the people in these communities, well, the ones we work with, so it's, we work with the people who are most conscious, I guess, but they want to have, they want their organics to be taken care of. They want to know how to take care of them themselves, and they want to participate in it. So the potential is about 95,000 tons of food and yard waste per year in Ulster County. Next slide. And what will zero waste, the implementation plan do? It will be the roadmap that all of the different transfer stations will be able to follow. And it will include measurements and audits. And that's the thing, public education. If you don't measure things, you don't know what your results are. We're going to build on the success of the new Paltz model. We're going to expand them. We're going to improve on this. And the focus has to be on reuse and repair, recycling, and composting. So the way we see it is the solid waste plan that we currently have in the county, it manages disposal. So it's a disposal-based system. And the ZWIP, the zero waste implementation plan, reduces waste and changes the system. And it's what we would call a recovery-based system. It's a complete culture change, really. Next slide. We welcome any calls, any emails, and anyone who's interested in taking a tour to see what's happening at that community garden and composter. And they could also come out to our very big, large composter. And I know that the town of New Paltz Transfer Station, Mike York, is the manager, and he gives a lot of tours. So if you were interested in that, if you contact us, we'll connect you with Mike. I don't have his information right here. Thank you very much.
So, just to my last little bit is it's not enough for us to say what we have just said. And we are, in the trenches, and we are biased. It should be studied, and it should be made, the information from the study should be made available to everyone who is planning from top to bottom, whether it's a community group or it is a municipal official. And the implementation plan calls for a complete analysis of what's being done in New Paltz, in Saugerties, in Clintondale and Hurley, so that you can see from a professional, third party professional point of view what can be done and what is really working.
Thank you so much, Shabazz and Josephine. It was really helpful. Um, Wonderful presentation. Going to keep us moving here, and we'll get to the point where we can take questions if you have them. Um, it's really a privilege for me to introduce you to Neil Seldman. Neil was so helpful with Kingston citizens back when the solid waste management plan, the local one, I believe, was under discussion, and Neil actually read it and gave us a 4 or 5 page report to help us to understand what was in it, which really helped us to engage at that time. So it's great to continue to work with Neil. And Neil is a leading national expert in zero waste, recycling, and sustainable materials management, and a longtime advocate for community-based alternatives to landfilling and incineration. He co-founded the Institute for Local Self-Reliance, and that was the group that helped us here locally at kingstoncitizens.org many years ago, and has spent decades helping cities and counties design and implement recycling, reuse, and composting systems that keep resources local and create economic opportunity. Through Neil's work with Zero Waste USA, he continues to assist communities in developing zero waste strategies and implementation plans while opposing large-scale disposal infrastructure that can lock regions into long-term waste dependency. And so with that, Neil, I'm just going to highlight you so we can see you as you're presenting,
Okay.
and take it away.
Thanks, Rebecca, for the introduction, but also for organizing this event. And before I talk about the national picture, I just want to say that the way out of this dilemma that we're facing is citizen organizing. And I want to shout out to Judith Enck, whose last few years of organizing have been nothing less than sensational. She told us before this call that there are now something like 190 affiliates across the country, which means tens of thousands of people are organized. And organizations that support the work in New York are equally as critical, and some of them are with us tonight: Zero Waste Warren County, Sustainable Sullivan, and others, and of course the network that Shabazz, Josephine, and Mana Joe have pulled together in Ulster County, our friends in Brookhaven, and Mothers Out Front in Dutchess. Also, the Manhattan Swab has been doing a lot of work on trying to refocus Mamdani against the city's former plan to send more and more garbage out of the city for incineration. Uh, okay, so if I could, thank you for moving the slides. And I'd like to say, uh, uh, I am no rocket scientist, and you don't have to be a rocket scientist to solve this problem. In fact, of all the environmental and political problems we have, solid waste is the easiest. We know what to do, and I will show you, hopefully show you that what's going on across the country. The basic economics is to keep it separate. And I don't mean sorting through garbage, I mean never mixing materials other than those that are destined for the landfill, which Judith covered in her introductory remarks. And the formula is simple. If you keep things separate, you have resources and can add value, which means jobs and a tax base. If you mix it up, you have a costly mess, which Josephine and Shabazz have shown us. And the benefits are the jobs, the small businesses, and the expanded tax base, which is essential for the future. If we could go to the next slide. Here are towns, cities, counties, small towns, big towns, that have taken the path that Shabazz and Josephine and Manna have laid out. Um, they're exciting stories. I'm only going to tell one from Alachua County, but all of these stories are equally dramatic. But in Alachua County in the mid 80s, excuse me, um, they wanted to build an incinerator. And a woman named Penelope Wheat, Wheat, went to a community meeting, an open public meeting, and raised questions about the incinerator impact and cost. And she was told by the commissioners to go back to her kitchen, which in fact she did. And she started to organize her campaign for county commissioner. And at the next election, she got more votes than anyone running for county commission in the history up until that point. And as commissioner, she was the clear champion of zero waste. And the county, which includes Gainesville, it's at about 50%. Their goal is 75%, which is the state goal. Other counties claim they're at or past that because they're incinerating, which of course is ridiculous. So these cities are at 50 and counties are 50, 60, approaching 70%. I could add many, many more cities: Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, King County, Washington. I could go on and on. And as I said, it's not brain science. If we could go to the next slide. And all of these communities that have invested in zero waste and gotten these very, very high divergent numbers reduce their costs, create many jobs, and of course, reduce global warming, because when you deliver recycled materials to industry to manufacture things, the energy you need is reduced, the water you need is reduced, the air that you need, you need to contaminate much less airspace. And as a result, every time we recycle or compost, composting, I don't have to say how valuable that is, because you don't have food if you don't have topsoil. And if you don't have good topsoil, you don't have good food. And in the United States, I think it's commonly known, our topsoil is very, very seriously depleted. There are soil scientists who can give us that information. So if we could go to the next slide. Let me finish up that thought. So every time we recycle or compost, we're reducing the pressure on the earth to take care of us. Next slide, please. Okay. These are simple formulas. I could go into detail. We could discuss this, or people could discuss it independently. In our system, if you don't want something, you tax it, cigarettes, et cetera, et cetera. And in our circumstance of solid waste, we want to get rid of single-use packaging, hybrid packaging, which means a package that has two different materials that can't be separated with economic efficiency, and therefore it becomes waste. And by the way, Judith Inc. Covers all of this brilliantly. I've reviewed her book thanks to Tracy Frisch on this call. She's helping me edit my review, which will be out soon. I also reviewed an excellent book comparable to Judith's by Bob Geddert, one of our leading solid waste management planners, and he's been starting to become active in New York State. So we then, because we're taxing what we don't want, we invest in what we want. And these facilities are operating all across the country. Gainesville, Florida, Alachua County built one. Austin, Texas built one. California has 45 of them. They're industrial parks reserved just for zero waste activities. And of course, we have to ban what is dangerous, which of course includes a great many of the plastics that are allowed to be produced. And finally, we need people in office who understand what's going on and will represent our interests. And they're out there, and many people are very enthusiastic about Mamdani. It is a little bit ironic that the zero waste people in New York City, the Swabs, Manhattan Swab, are having a very difficult time talking to Mamdani and Mamdani's people, which is frustrating, but I think we will get through. The key is that New York City spends $500 million a year exporting its waste to incinerators all around the region, and 90% of what they're exporting could become valuable resources. If we could get to the next, oh, well, that's fine. I'm just about done. But I do want to say that what we're doing, the activities that we're involved in, is the essence of citizenship. And for eons, going back to Aristotle, the good citizen is a citizen that participates in decision making. And in addition to all the recyclables we're taking out of circulation, et cetera, by the way, the US economy uses 100 million tons a year of recycled materials, which is pretty good. And of course, it can be improved. But the point is that we are pointing out what people can do at the local level to get involved in citizenship in the Aristotelian manner and make decisive changes. And we're lucky that we can still do this. I say that carefully because Trump wants to make sure that everything we can do is preempted. We could ask Mike Ewald perhaps to talk about the new legislation that would have federal preemption over local solid waste management, which would be a disaster for all of us. It would pave the way for incineration. So we've got to organize locally and vote for zero waste champions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neil. Really appreciate you being here and a part of our coalition of partners and all of your work on New York Zero Waste Coalition. So I want to bring in some of our coalition partners that are organizing in their counties just to show the breadth of this issue and the connections that we all have. And I'd like to introduce Eric Feinblatt and Rebecca Kreshkov to speak with you all for a moment.
I think Rebecca will, although we haven't talked about this, but she'll take us back to the beginning. But I think we should start just by thanking our Aristotles, which include Neil, who works with us, Mike Ewall, who works with us, and BP, who works with us. The three of them, the other two are on this call, and they have really been our inspiration. We meet with them every other week and talk about the work that we're doing and the directions that we want to go to, but just to acknowledge how important their input has been in our limited but increasing successes. And I think Rebecca will just take us back to the beginning of Sustainable Sullivan. She was there at the beginning and talk about the battle that we are in at the moment.
A few years ago, the Sullivan County Legislature wanted to bring in a company, Hughes Energy, which pressure cooks garbage and tries to make a marketable product out of it. They've approached at least 5 different localities in New York State, more elsewhere. And I have to tip my hat now to Tracy Frisch on this call, as well as to Judith, who put me in touch with her. Through them, I learned that no, this was really not a solution we want, that this company is not tried and tested. So rallied people, got that to stop. But then a couple of years ago, Sullivan put out its draft solid waste management plan. It called for incineration. We had the opportunity to comment on that plan, and we did, rallied people to that. Then last year, they put out their draft RFP for an incinerator company. They had visited ReWorld in late May of 2024. So they also went to ReWorld Hempstead, just as the Ulster legislators did, and they were very wowed by what they saw. Continue to talk about this facility being right next door to 100 million, not 100, to $1 million homes. Maybe it was $100 million homes. Who knows? Good God. So we have been continuing to rally people and make noise, and we've made a fair bit of headway with the legislators, but you never know until it's in the can, and we need something positive to bring to them, hence zero waste. Eric, back to you.
Yeah, so we've been working simultaneously with Neil and Mike and BP in attempting to develop a zero waste plan that we can present, a roadmap that we can present to the legislatures, but at the same time, trying to stop this incinerator. And I guess just to show you how bizarre this infatuation with technology is. Our Department of Public Works head or vice head speaks monthly with the Ulster people, the Orange people, the people from Westchester. They have these monthly meetings, and the proposal for the incinerator would put us in a put or pay situation. I think Rebecca or someone talked about that before. Maybe it was Shabazz, and I don't remember who mentioned it before. We would be obliged to supply ReWorld with 500 to 1 million tons of garbage per year. Sullivan County produces 100,000 tons a year. And actually, we have flow control, but we have no one who can enforces flow control. The moment 20% of that is going to Pennsylvania or some other place. So we only are producing 80,000 tons. So what we would have to do is bring in, and Judith talked about this, the reason that she wanted additional legislation, bring in trash from Ulster County. That's been floated as an idea. We're going to bring in trash from Ulster. We're going to bring in trash from this county and that county. Ulster, in their new plan, does not have enough waste to supply the anaerobic digester. So they have suggested bringing in trash from Sullivan County. So the whole thing is a mind fuck, if I could say that. It's just a comedy. Sorry. It's a comedy of errors. It's like Abbott and Costello. We're collecting their waste because we can't fulfill a put or pay contract. And they want our waste because they won't be able to fulfill or put or pay contracts. So it's like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And it just shows you that the techno frenzy is just so mistaken. It just has clearly no basis in reality. And if you try to connect the dots, well, the dots just don't connect. The whole thing falls apart. So that's where we are. We're trying to point out the stupidity of all of this and, propose. We do a lot of grassroots organizing. We go to town meetings, we go to county meetings. Rebecca and I are always there speaking, and we are always trying to suggest that this is a downward path to wisdom. It's actually not going to be wisdom at all. It's just a downward path to insanity. And that we need to take seriously local control of our waste and the culture change that people have talked about. And as Neil said, keeping it simple. The economics of it, and there's just the common sense of it. So that's what we're doing, but we're not doing it alone. Again, we're getting loads of help from many of the people who are on this call. We certainly pay attention to what Rebecca's group is doing. We're on their calls often, and I can't thank all of you enough for helping us and being part of this larger community.
Yeah. Same to you, Eric and Rebecca. Thank you for all your work and thanks for being here tonight to put the impacts of what Ulster County is discussing um, on other counties and vice versa. Really appreciate that. Next, I want to introduce Sandra Stratton Gonzalez, who's another one of our community partners. Sandra works with Mothers Out Front of Dutchess County. To say a few words, Sandra?
Thank you, Rebecca. It's really an honor to be here. I am representing a small but very dedicated group of activists in Dutchess County. We have been working to shut the Poughkeepsie incinerator. It is an aging, often offline, polluting facility. It is really disheartening to hear all of the plans afoot in Sullivan and Ulster and other locations regarding anaerobic digestion and incineration. And I just want to underline what everyone has said. These facilities continue to keep us on the path of disposal rather than the path of recovery. They lock us into decades of disposal culture because of the put or pay agreements. We are currently in a position where we're fighting to change, of course, practices in Dutchess County and understand really deeply how our neighboring counties, how we impact each other's practices. We have the legislature has committed some funds to a study of waste management practices in the county. That study is taking place now. We have, for the first time in 2 decades, a Democratic majority in our legislature, and some hope that we can move the needle, certainly prevent the build out of either an additional burner at this 2 burner facility that we have, or the build of a new facility and move to zero waste practices. And yeah, it's lots of words have been used. It's insane. It's crazy. The whole idea of locking us into a couple more decades of disposal culture when we have very sustainable practices available to us it's a very kind of short-sighted decision making on the part of our electeds. So we're here to support our neighboring counties, and thanks again for having me share our experience in Dutchess.
Thank you, Sandra. Our pleasure, and thanks for all your help over the months. All of you. It's been really great. And so we're closing now, and with just a last slide and a couple of actions, and I really appreciate everybody's staying over time. I think it's valuable for us to take the time we need to ask questions, and I want to introduce others from our coalition of partners. But now's the time, as you've heard tonight, all of these great ideas and people willing to help us to collaborate, to move together, and to figure this out. We don't need 1 or 2 people making decisions for us. This is not what stewards are meant to do. Elected officials are stewards, they're facilitators. And we need more of that right now, more than ever. And look at all the talent in the room. This is how we move forward. Now is the time, because New York State and Ulster County also are both actively supportive of food scrap recovery as part of a broader waste reduction effort. This is all information that Shabazz and Josephine reminded me last night when we spoke, and that there are now specific requirements for large food waste generators. So if you're a commercial generator, you're required to divert uneaten food away from the landfills. And there are 3 main pathways for that. One is to donate edible food to feed people. Second is to send the food scraps to animal feed operations. And the third is recycling food scraps through composting. And these requirements apply to larger generators. Specifically, if a business or institution produces at least a half a ton or about 1,000 pounds of food waste per week, they'll fall under this law. And there's also a location requirement that if that generator is within a 50-mile radius, so this has increased from 25 to 50. And just going back, I think the original, there was a larger tonnage for if an institution is creating food waste, it's been lessened. So to capture more businesses and to make it more accessible. So now it's a 50-mile radius of registered food waste recycling facilities that are required to comply. So overall, the goal is to reduce landfills, reduce landfill waste and make better use of excess food. So that's really also important to add. And so what can you do? There are a series of things that we can recommend that you do, and you might have other ideas that we'd love to hear. One is to attend meetings. So the UCRRA board, the Ulster County Resource and Recovery Authority, meets on the fourth Thursday of each month at 6 p.m. And we've made a little QR code for those who can use it that will take you directly to their meetings page. And we did this especially since we're recording. We can share links here for all of you. The Ulster County Legislature meets on the third Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. Right? So UCRRA is talking about the Global NRG Anaerobic Digestion Project, while Ulster County is talking about the Zero Waste Implementation Plan. So these are the bodies that are having these conversations and that really need the public's participation. The Ulster County Legislature Energy, Environment, and Sustainability Committee meets on the first Monday of each month at 5 p.m. And then the Environmental Management Council, the EMC, meets 9 to 10 times a year on the last Wednesday of each month at 6:30. And the EMC is so it's a volunteer advisory body in Ulster County that's made up of representatives that are appointed from each town and village, so that serve on their Conservation Advisory Council or their Environmental uh, Commission, ECC, CAC, and they're selected and they serve on this board, and it's a really, really great place um, to attend and to listen and to engage. And then right now you can provide support too, to call your legislator, your municipal CAC or ECC, your local elected officials, our stewards, and request that they support a properly funded zero waste implementation plan with a good scope, the right scope, that creates a model zero waste, creates a model for zero waste that can be replicated across all the remaining 18 transfer stations in Ulster County. You can share this information with your networks. We're going to be creating a one sheet with all these materials so you can bookmark it and you can share it. And you can sign up for kingstoncitizens.org's mailing list to get our newsletters when they go out. So we'll go to questions, but I just also want to acknowledge some of our coalition partners spoke tonight. There'll be other opportunities. You'll hear more from our partners. But in the audience is Manajo Green, who's a former Ulster County legislator and a zero waste advocate for many decades. Mike Ewall is here tonight from Energy Justice Network. Tracy Frisch from Clean Air Action Network. And I don't know if BP made it, but BP wears so many hats. He's all over. He's the best, and he's a wonderful facilitator, and also works for Toxic Prison Campaign of Human Rights Coalition in Philadelphia. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing, but that's who's here. And if you have um, questions, now's the time. We've got lots of great people here who can, oh, and Manna had to jump. Um, but you can see we have lots of great people here to answer questions. So I will pause. You can chat your questions. We'd love to see your faces. We'd love to see you come on camera. I always say it's pretend we're sitting at the table. But if you're uncomfortable, that's also totally fine. Hi, Claudia. Nice to see you. Great.
Rebecca?
Yes, Lorraine.
Yeah, I did have a question for Shabazz and Josephine, if they're still on here.
They're here.
They mentioned something about the mechanical composting at New Paltz, and I was curious how that works. Do you know anything about that technology you could tell me or send me maybe?
I can send you some contacts, and the system, just very briefly, is technically is a it's a forced air anaerobic system. So what I showed you a picture of was the forced air part. It's enclosed by concrete, and it is in that picture you saw the pipes and you saw the blowers, and there's slots in the floor in each one of the bays, so that the air is pushed up through those slots in the floors. So it is a very common method. And then on the right, ours is a biological method of doing the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we make a very porous medium that gets hot very quickly, and it's has that cone shape that you saw in the background. And what that does is it draws air. The cone shape gives it a chimney effect, so that it draws air through the pile, and then the chimney effect pushes it out the top.
Mm.
And you can almost see water vapor in the top of the piles behind it.
Uh-huh.
So our system does in 6 hours what it takes the forced air system 30 days to do.
Hmm.
But it's not enough for us to say that, and where the implementation plan would really benefit us, that's why we're really pushing for it, is to put these two systems side by side, put the same materials into it, and actually have a third party verify, what it costs per ton to process that material.
Rain, can I, when we get off here, can I get your email? Is it okay if I get it from Rebecca?
Sure.
Send you information then.
Yeah. Thank you.
Do you
You're
mind
welcome.
introducing your organization, Lorraine, and your wonderful study or letter that you submitted regarding the project?
Yeah, I don't have the letter at the ready here, but
No, just your group's name. I'm sorry.
we are the Hudson Valley Air Quality Coalition.
Oh, okay.
And I'm the director there, and we work. We're a coalition of building scientists and community members and indoor and outdoor air quality advocates. So we work throughout the Hudson Valley.
I think that I zoomed in on your last meeting. It was very good. I think I know I did. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know who's talking. Was that?
That's
was
Josephine.
Oh, hi. Oh, did you? Oh, that's great. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So Tracy just followed up a question, Shabazz and Josephine, whether, sorry, I just jumped. Is that an aerated static pile composting system?
that Greenway has.
It is ours, or the one that is pictured in New Paltz is
Yes.
aerated static pile. And static pile means that they're forcing air into it so you don't have to turn it. That's that's what static means. And ours is a aerated. It's a biological system.
Mm-hmm. Great. Neil had his hand up.
Yes, I just I just wanted to mention briefly that Shabazz and Josephine and I had a conversation in planning for today last night, and I wanted to bring out that composting and reuse in the form of repair cafes and swap shops. These are activities that not only manage materials and get them out of the waste stream, but they build community. People meet over issues that are important to them. And so when we think of zero waste, if I could be as bold to say that there's a spiritual aspect to zero waste, both in relations with people and our relations with the environment in our cities and towns.
We agree.
I
think we're muted. Oh, go ahead.
Our system, what we did was we scaled down our big system to fit in the size of a parking space. And so with the same like factors of quality and production, and we put that system at the Reformed Church, and we showed a picture of it, but we're having workshops there at the festival on the 25th. And we're also doing that as a zero waste festival. So while I'm at the workshops, Josephine is going to be collecting, and the scouts are going to be collecting all the waste. So it's a good place to actually come and see it. If you bring a bucket, I'll give you, some of the food waste compost. About 80 families use it, and it's taken in about 800 pounds a week. So it's a very good startup situation. And then with a number of places, we have just regular collection. For example, the town of Poughkeepsie, the collection at the town hall and at the Abe's Way, that material comes to us. And it's just a very straightforward way to start. They started it with a grant, and now the grant showed them how much it's going to cost. About 500 families use that. And then now the town has put it into their budget. So it was something that it's well into the second year, and that is the start point, and it allows you to utilize our infrastructure and just get started. And that's the most important thing, because what we have to do is we have to change from a disposal-based system to a recovery-based system. And my mom used to say, by hook or by crook, we have to increase our recovery by 25%. That's all we have to do. It's like we're halfway there. We have to increase by 25%, and then like the magic happens. Because none of these systems are feasible if your recovery rate is over 50%. You don't have to fight incinerators anymore. We don't have to fight, ridiculous $150 million composters, right? Once we get above 50%. we just drop out of the running for any of those solutions.
It's great. I just want to acknowledge that Ann Peters is here from the Ulster County Legislature. I really appreciate you coming in, and you're just so responsive, listening to long conversations, and much appreciated earlier on. We were trying to put this on the table. And Claudia is here as an environmental educator, permaculture exchange, it looks like. Really appreciate you being here. Folks who are on camera, we're all getting to know each other. Go ahead, Tracy.
Well, I'm not sure I want to say this, but Shabazz and Josephine have done such a great job with composting. We're looking at composting in Warren County, and an aerated static pile system was chosen actually because it is faster than the other system. I think that there's more biological activity in the kind of system that Greenway uses, but I just want to say the aerated static pile system is considered to be faster by the composting consultant that came and is working with us. So I just want to put that out there.
Well, you've never had a side-by-side comparison.
Well, I
And
think that would be fantastic.
It's possible, just like you saw on those two slides, that is possible to do here. And that's what should be done, because we have innovated, but the government is the obstacle for innovation. And just think about these computers. What if the government had to approve when Bill Gates was running around, with handmade computers in the back of his Pinto? What if he had to get a government permit to do that?
So Shabazz, I saw an aerated pile system, static pile system in Ulster County on a farm, and the farmer had made it with a squirrel cage fan that he found in the barn. It cost him almost nothing to make this thing. And I just, so that's where I learned about that. But I don't want to take up time here.
No, it's great. These are great questions. We'll have a couple more questions. I know we've really gone way over, but I appreciate everybody hanging in there. This is an important conversation.
It's great to talk about garbage.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, it's nice that it's being discussed more right now, and hopefully it leads to, it's a good road to be on, and more of Ulster County residents, community members really need to be aware. And that's why it's so wonderful that we were able to share tonight Shabazz and Josephine's work, so we can see what's happening in New Paltz and learn about what's possible in Ulster County, and to find ways to get these conversations on the right track, break down the silos, and have more meaningful conversations like this. So if there aren't any other questions, we can break for the night, and we will be sharing these materials, which include everybody's contact, and we can share everybody's contact information. And tomorrow night, the Ulster County Legislature's Energy, Environment, and Sustainability Committee is going to be discussing a memo for a policy guidance document, which is different from a zero waste implementation plan, which there are a lot of questions about. So we will be at that meeting tomorrow, some of us, to ask questions. We appreciate it being put on the agenda for community members to go and ask questions about the process, which is still very unclear. All right, with that, everybody, have a wonderful night.
Thanks for pulling this together, Rebecca.
Yep, and we will see you in the field.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Rebecca, and everyone.